We're talking about the big battle. Go ahead and start now.
All right, and this is where, in the Battle of the Bulge, okay, the American troops, mainly of the 101st Airborne Division, had bottled up themselves in the city of Bastogne. Well, the Germans had Bastogne completely surrounded, and the Air Force was able to take their missions into it, but the troops were having a hard time keeping the Germans from taking them over. And supplies were getting short, ammunition was getting, all of these things were occurring in Bastogne. And that German sent a note to as the general that was in charge, McCullough or something of that nature, his name was, of note, when can we expect your surrender? And he sent back an answer, "Oh, nuts." No. And in other words, go to hell. He wasn't about to give up. The C-47s were flying now, and they were coming in with supplies to Bastogne, which was very difficult because the Germans, as I say, had this town completely surrounded. They would be shooting these goony birds down like mad. And they managed to get supplies into them so that they could have a battle. Before oh, what's his name? General Patton, before he could reach them from the south, it was taking some time. And then the Russians again were pushing in from the east. It was one hell of a battle that they had, and we did as much damage as we could. And Hurtgen Forest was a main forest which was surrounding that area in there. And we'd go in and we'd shoot up everything that we could find in that. Even it was looking like it was an American, they had American vehicles and all that. So we'd shoot up this stuff, and eventually they brought in an outfit called the 106th Infantry Division, which we got brand new right from the States. These poor guys didn't know what was happening to them. And I think probably 75% of them were captured by the Germans when they started to take over, and they made their move in the German drive to get out and take Antwerp. All these guys were captured, and what they did with them was a problem because they had their own problems. We didn't want them, or we, meaning the Americans, didn't want these guys to get slaughtered. But that was a tough decision that the generals had to make on what to do. And General MacDonald, or whatever his name was again, he did whatever he could. He said, "I'm not leaving. We're holding this until the last man is gone." So eventually, we beat the Germans back, mostly by air. And they didn't have air power to speak of because we'd already beaten the Air Force terribly. And we did everything we could to come in and even strafe in the town of Bastogne to try and hit the German where they had holed up and so on. It was quite a place and quite an active bit. And that was really the end of World War II, where they still had, the war was going on. This was December, and we continued flying. Weather was good. We continued flying, picking various targets out, and they had bases, air bases and stuff that were behind the lines by Bastogne, and we flew. In fact, the incident that happened there, when we got to Ophoven in Belgium and the new base there, I think I had flown close to, and I finally got my 50 missions in. And fighter pilots, that's all they had to put in was 50 missions. Bomber pilots had to fly, or bomber crews had to fly 25 missions. So I got my 50 missions in, and what I wanted to do, I wanted to get over and fly P-51s. And so when I got you had a choice. You finish your missions, you could go home. Well, I went to my boss, the colonel, and I said, "Hey, Colonel, I'm through with I completed my missions, and I'd like to fly 51, so could you get me transferred to a 51 outfit?" And he said, "Bob, we need you so badly. We have a need for more pilots also, and I just can't let you go. I know what you'd like to do," but he said, You just have to stay with us and do your job. And I said, well, okay, so I said, I volunteer, I'll stay on then. And so finally, I flew the rest of the missions. I had a couple of nice, exciting incidents that occurred between, right after that, where I come in for one day and it was icy, and I landed too far down the runway, and I tried to stop too much, and I wasn't having much success because of the icy, planks. And finally, I finally got it to roll very slowly, and then I got to the end of the planks, and just then my wheels just rolled off the end of the planks into the mud, and the nose came over and hit one prop and bounced back up again. And that was my only real bad time of it. I didn't hear the end of that for a long time to come. So, anyways, I continued to fly, and we would depend mostly on spotters outfit, the intelligence, the air intelligence, and they had like the Mustangs would fly intelligence missions, photographic. They were known as photographic outfit, and they go out and they get targets for us. And we had controllers that would control us to certain targets or control us here or there, back. If we got lost, they'd pick us up and try to bring us back. And we went out. This mission is my 58th mission. We had it was to take us to Dusseldorf, and we loaded up with 2,000-pound bombs, so two 2,000-pounders. And we had the target was a bridge at Dusseldorf across the main. This was across the Ruhr River, the main Ruhr River in Germany, and it was a long river, and it took you right into Dusseldorf. Well, anyways, we were on our way there, and the weather was stinking. It was overcast, and we were flying through overcast all the time. And we finally couldn't get there. We couldn't, it was just too bad weather. So we turned around and asked for guidance to maybe a secondary target. And one of these 51 guys picked us up and said, "Oh, we got a target here for you." It seems as though the Americans made a crossover in one of the rivers, the Ruhr, almost the same as the big Ruhr, but one was a H, one was a O, and one was the U in the rivers. And the Americans got across it, and the Germans were bringing up armored infantry and armored tanks to throw them back across the river. So we caught these tanks, and I was in blue flight at this time. Blue flight was top cover on this particular mission, which meant that you were supposed to fly over the whole group while over the squadron, excuse me, while protect them for any fighters, German fighters or whatever came up from above, and let the rest go down and do their thing. And so Plattner, the squadron commander at that time, was leading. He said, "Hey, Reese, you guys go down, will you, and drop your bombs in the town. You can see those tanks there coming through town. See if you can stop them." And he said, "Then keep a daisy chain around and keep them strafing and keep them busy while we go in and do our real dive bombing on them." So sure enough, I went in there. I had a brand new lieutenant as my wingman at the time, and I told him on the air, "Be sure, and the weather is not the best, so be sure, and when you drop your bombs or stop strafing, pull up and reel Chandelle over to the right to get away from the fire." And so what happens is we made the first pass, and of course they went like hell. We dropped both of our bombs, and then he went by and he dropped his. And then after he dropped his, what I didn't know was that he scooped up, went up in the air, higher up, presumed up, and went through the overcast that was above us. And that's what I just heard him. He said, "Oh, I'm in the overcast." Then I established what they call a daisy chain. You just went around and around and went down and did your duty on mostly strafing and so on. And so I went around for my second time, and what happened was, I was going maybe 400 miles an hour, and strafing this anti-aircraft battery that was shooting at us, and they were shooting at me straight on. And I went down. I passed over maybe 75 feet over them and pulled up I knew I wanted to get out of there in a hurry, so I pull up in a hurry, and what happens? I just hear a bump, you know, and half of my wing went off. And